ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Cinetober. Yes, that's right. I am back with another review for the third installment of the Scream series. Now, with this one, it was officially made a trilogy after this. And you know how a lot of trilogies don't go good. Spider-Man 3, in my opinion, X-Men 3, Jurassic Park 3. Yeah. So with this film also focused on the fact that it was a trilogy, just like the second movie focused on the fact that it was a sequel. So this film starts off with Cotton, the guy from the second movie, who has his own talk show, and he's actually a celebrity, and he's living a good life. All the people have been living good lives ever since Cotton got out, and the things from Scream 2. I don't know how much longer or how long this one is after Scream 2, but it starts off with while Cotton is in the car and he's talking with people, all of a sudden his girlfriend, who they do the same thing that they did in Scream 2, where the girl who's getting ready to get into the shower and she drops her robe and she's naked but you don't see anything. She gets a call who she thinks is Cotton. And apparently Cotton would sometimes play the stab games with the stab movies. He would always play like the, "Wanna play a game, Sydney?" Stuff like that, but just to freak her out. Well, then all of a sudden he starts getting a call. She gets a call. Actually, no, Cotton gets another call, and then all of a sudden the killer's like, "Where's Sidney Prescott?" He's like, "I'm not going to tell you. I don't know where she is." And then thus the killer decides, okay, fine, I'll kill your fiance or your girlfriend. So then he starts acting like her, and you notice one thing. This one, you don't know who the killer is. And in all these movies, you really can't figure out who the killer is. But this one, they play on it, because in this one, the killer can mimic other people's voices. Somehow they have gotten other people's voices recorded, and they're using it and tricking them into coming into a room, and the killer kills them off. And that was honestly a really good twist, because you never knew who the killer was. You couldn't even, you couldn't trust a phone call to begin with in these movies, but now the fact that, they were mimicking voices, they could sound like someone else and trick you into coming in, and then you could get killed. So, the killer is trying to the killer actually cut their phone line, so anytime Cotton tries to call the house, nothing will happen. And he starts talking like Cotton, he's like, "Oh, come on, hon, I'm just kidding. And even when he's stabbing through the door, I figure after stabbing through the door, you realize, holy crap, I gotta call 911. So she gets away from the killer, Cotton comes home, and his girlfriend is like, "Why do you want to kill me? Why do you want to kill me?" He's like, "Come on, I would never want to hurt you." And then the killer comes, stabs her in the back, and then Cotton gets hit in the head with a golf club by his girlfriend before she got stabbed, and then he kills her, and then we get the title of Scream 3. And we do see Sidney Prescott, who is now going by the name of Laura. But now, one thing that I do not like about what they did in this one is, in the second movie, they established that Sidney was no longer going to hide. She was done hiding. She was done running. And after you make her an awesome heroine, you put her right back with where she was in the second movie, just worse. In the second movie, her roommate was like, "Come on, you've got to get out of the room." In this one, she's living in isolation. She's under a different name. She has a golden retriever, but she's pretending it's an attack dog. And it's just, that kind of ticks me off when you take a great character and you establish her as she's no longer going to be afraid. They put her right back where she was, and she's under a new name. She's even afraid to leave the house. And this makes me think of an episode of Law & Order with the girl who keeps getting raped by the same guy, and she's even afraid to go outside, so she works from home. And just seeing that, I was like, that's a little awesome nod to Law & Order, but just the fact that they took Sydney in the second one and established her as a awesome heroine who was no longer going to be afraid, and they put her back that way. And so, we do get everybody else. Because Cotton was murdered, we get Gail Weathers, who is coming off of a press conference about a new book she wrote, and then we run into Dewey again, because when they're making Stab 3, they wanted someone who's actually experienced it, so they wanted him to, I guess, be kind of a standby person, just to make sure. They are, and with this one, this one takes place on a movie set, with Stab 3 coming out as the first one was just the beginning. The second one was at a college. This one is on a movie set. And this one has more to do with Sidney Prescott's mother. Once again, all three of them have to do with Sidney's mother. Now, with this one, Sidney does not Sidney hears about what happened to Cotton, but she doesn't do anything about it. She goes and talks to her dad, and she talks to him about, like, did you even really know Mom? And the dad didn't even really know who she was. And so eventually Sidney does go back. She does leave her house, and the dad's like, you should just come back. And she's like, she doesn't, but she does go to the movie place, and they're like, Sidney, what are you doing here? I thought that you were in hiding. She's like, well, the killer knows who I am. The killer found me. I'm no safer there than I am here, so I might as well just deal with it. Gail and Dewey reunite, and we find out that they did date, but Gail just couldn't take living in Woodsboro anymore. She just couldn't take it. Dewey said he would never leave, and Gail, she just left. So they were a couple, but after he got better, she started working again. She just couldn't deal with it. So now they're on edge with each other, just like how they were in the second film. We've already seen this, but they still do work together. And with this one, since they're making characters based on the actual people, once again in the second one, there's another person who's playing Sidney, there's a person who's playing Gail, a person who's playing Dewey, and these people, even though they are getting killed, these kills actually do have references, because with these kills, it's the actors who are playing the characters and in the order that they die in the film. Now, there is a security guard in this movie, and he plays Joe from Family Guy. And when I seen him, I was like, I love that guy, because he's so funny when he plays Joe. Another fun thing about this movie is there was a hint at another movie. I just can't remember what it was. In the second one, they hinted at Friends. Crap, what was it? They hinted at something, and it was funny. I forget. This one is not my favorite in the series, though. The one thing, though, one actress who does die, who's playing Candy, aka the chick who got killed at the beginning of Scream 2, just renamed. It's the girl who played in an episode of Charmed when the three blondes became the Charmed ones, and Paige said the epic line, "This chick couldn't hit the bronze side of a beauty parlor." Thank you. She gets killed because she's talking to her director about how they're running over lines, and because the actor, or the person who's the killer, has a different voices, he can mimic other people. So he tricks her, and then she starts wandering around the room, and then she eventually does get killed. And this is actually, I think after this is when Sidney decides to go back, and they run into her. And they find, here's the interesting thing, after every kill, a picture of Sidney's mother when she's like 19 or 20 is placed at the crimes. So someone, once again, this has to do with Sidney. All three of these have to do with Sidney's mother and Sidney. And so the mystery of this movie is to find out what Sidney's mother was doing in Hollywood, and what was she basically like. And Gail even finds out, I've looked up on files, I can't find anything of her. And, oh, I remember the cameo. The cameo was by the person who played Princess Leia in Star Wars. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. That's what was funny. The Gail and her wannabe lookalike or whatever are wandering around, like, oh my gosh, but you just look like it wasn't me. And I was like, that is freaking hilarious. That is just funny. It was just so funny. If you don't want to watch this movie, at least go and find that part where they talk to the actress who played Princess Leia in Star Wars, because it is worth it. It is hilarious. It's so funny. But when it's after the security guard who plays Joe gets killed, who is guarding, I think Tina's her name, because she's playing the other Gail Weathers. That's when Sid comes in, I think, and then that's when they start trying to figure out, like, what's going on. And here's how we get the rules of this movie. They introduce Randy's sister. Now, I actually did have a problem with this. Even though it was just to introduce Randy, there was nothing about this character. You cannot just roll in a character that we know nothing about and that we're supposed to care about. And like, they act like they've known her, but we've never seen her. There's nothing mentioned about her in the first film or the second film. She's just in the third film, and then she's never seen again. And that... I mean, I understand that they wanted to get Randy back in the film, but what they could have done is the fact that Dewey was in Woodsboro, they could have been like, hey, look, we found this tape and we watched it. We need to give this to you because we don't need a tape about him talking about how people should survive killer movies. But I mean, I understand that it was to bring in Randy, but they should have done something else. Or they should have established her in the first movie. Or make her the new Randy, at least, or something like that. But there is a tape that he made when he was in college about how to survive how to survive a trilogy. And what it was is the past is always going to come back and bite you in the butt. Survivors from the first two films are going to die, which includes Sid, and the killer is going to be unstoppable. And those are pretty much the rules. And there's also more blood. So as they're trying to discover this mystery, we find out that the mother, Sydney's mother actually went by another name, Rena Reynolds. And they went to the director that she worked for and the movies that she was in. She was in 3 horror films, and they go and talk to the director, and they talk about like what you have to, basically like, you know, stuff you have to do to get into Hollywood. And we meet the director earlier on in the film. His name's Roman, and he's doing Stab 3. And because of what's going on, you know, they're going to cancel the movie because people are dying. And so it's also his birthday. So by the time they come in, he's like, yeah, thanks for mentioning my birthday. And they do other hints at who's the killer. And we have these 2 detectives in the beginning of the film who are working with Gail Weathers to try to uncover it because she knows a lot about Woodsboro because she was there. Just like Dewey. And so, like, he's trying to help Sid. And the thing is, the torment with Sid in this movie is much worse. They actually make her torment mental in this one. Because the killer is trying to... They recreated the whole entire first set, which I don't understand. Why didn't they do that in the second film? But they reestablished the whole entire set of the first film. Like, Sid's house. The house where the murders, the final climax of the movie happened. And Sydney starts having dreams about her mother, and it's actually the killer who is sneaking up to her house and freaking her out, and she's having nightmares about her mother. And then the killer dresses up like her mother and talks like her mother and makes her actually freak out, and she can't tell whether she's crazy or whether something is going on. Like, it makes Sydney not know what's real and what's not, and that was actually kind of a cool twist. But when she gets chased by the killer, that's where this happens. They do the whole entire thing from the first movie where she's like, please, I don't watch that crap. Why not? Well, it's about a movie about some psycho killer is chasing after some big-breasted bimbo who runs up the stairs when she'd be running out the door. It's insulting. And she does the same thing. I mean, come on, Sid. You've been in this situation. Find a way to run around him and run out the door. But she eventually does get away. She actually falls out of the house, and then this is when Dewey and the detective find her, and they're like, he's in there. The other detective goes in. He's like, there's nobody here. So now Sid's like, look, I know I'm not crazy. I know what I saw. And because it is Roman's birthday, the director who their mom worked for allows them to have his party in his house. So like, they're exploring all over the mansion, and they find a bunch of stuff. And this is like when a lot of other people start to die. A bunch of the other crew members get killed. Gail and Dewey end up growing together once again as a thing, and they do find out who the killer is because this is around the time when cell phones were just coming out, and she's like, Dewey, get your cell phone. If you have caller ID, hit the number that called you and hit send, and then they find out, oh crap, the killer is here. It's someone in this house. And the director, he goes downstairs, and Tina, who's like all freaking out, it's like, what's going on? And then she goes downstairs and she finds... Actually, no. No, never mind. No, she hides from the killer. And when Dewey and Gale separate, she goes downstairs and she finds his body with a knife in it. And she's like, is he dead? Yes, very. And then they run upstairs, and then the killer starts attacking people. And Sidney's not there yet. And actually how Gale and Dewey got there was, once again, trickery with the voice changer thing. And they hinted that the detective might be the killer, because he's like, look, I'm going to go back to the crime scene and see what I can find. He's nowhere to be found. And they even ask, hey, where's your partner? Hinting at that he could possibly be the killer. So then Sidney gets a call from the killer, who is pretending to be her, and then the killer's like, I'll talk to you when you're on your way. She gets the call. He asks her to throw the gun that she stole, and he's like, you come inside or your friends are gonna die. She gets in there. We see the killer, and right when he's getting ready to kill her, she pulls out another gun and shoots him. And I was like, Sidney, look, you've been through this before. Shoot him in the freaking head. Like, she shoots him in the chest like 5 times, and she has 1 bullet. She misses. And then when he goes around the corner after she shot him and he's knocked out, all of a sudden the detective comes around, and I was like, the detective is the killer. And how this also could be, how he could also be the killer, is because when you're around the policeman, you find comfort when there's a policeman around. You know, it's okay, look, I'm here to help you. Just put the gun down. And when she started to put the gun, I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to kill her. Nope. That's when the killer starts attacking, and the detective and the killer have a fight. And then the killer gets up, and then she's like, you know what? No, you want me? Come get me. And they do this chase scene. She locks herself in this film room, and this is where we find out who the killer is. It's Roman, the director, also known as her brother, who is the son of who is the son of Rena Reynolds. And he's basically, this all goes back to the first movie. He filmed Sidney's mom after Sidney's mom rejected him, saying like, no, you're not my son. You're the son of Rena Reynolds. She's dead. So after this, he follows her, finds out that she was seeing Roman. She was seeing Billy Loomis's dad. He called up Billy Loomis, said, look, Sidney's mom is a whore, and he's sleeping with the dad. So he convinced Billy to do what he did. And then the whole entire thing after that with the mother happened. So this has all been up to him. He's jealous that Sidney got the life that he never had. And so she's like, you know what? No, I'm not the reason. I'm not the one to blame. The one to blame is you. It is you. So then, like, when she starts shooting him, she finds out that he has a bulletproof vest on. And then he just disappears. Actually, Sidney disappears. And then the suspense is amped up because you're wondering where could she be. And then he tries to call her cell phone, and then somehow Sidney switched phones with him. And then all of a sudden she stabs him with something in the back of the neck. And then he's like, I could have made my movie. Stab 3, right? She stabs him in the heart. And then this is where Dewey and Gale come in, and they're like, I thought the killer always comes back. He comes back. Freaking Dewey and Gale shoot him down. And then they go back to Sidney's house, and after this, Sidney has finally let her guard down. She is unraveling. She's not all cooped up anymore. She unlocks all of her doors. And the detective is okay. He survives. And Dewey proposes to Gale Weathers by having her autograph her book. And the movie ends with Sidney getting asked to go watch a scary movie, and then she looks as the door opens by the wind, and she just smiles and goes off. And that was a good way to end this film. And even though that this film was not as good as the first one, and even I kind of like the second one better than this one, it still has a good premise. It's just something, it's like with those movies that you know that they're bad, but there's something that just keeps you coming back. And that's what this film honestly is. In my personal opinion, this film, it's not the best in the Scream series, but it's an okay film. Like I said, if you don't want to watch the film, at least find the clip where they talk to the girl who played Princess Leia, because it is funny as heck. Well, guys, this has been another episode of Cinetober. Stay tuned, where I will review, once again, I will be re-reviewing Scream 4. Guys, have a good day.